What's up, FANVERSATION? Kari Lane here, and I'm sitting down with Ric Roman Waugh to talk about his new film, Kandahar. What made you want to sign on to this film project? What made you excited about it?
Sicario, how it took a different lens on the war on drugs and really humanized the factors on both sides of the equation. Mitch LaFortune's script, which was originally called Burn Run, that became Kandahar, was very much that same lens about the Middle East. And it was really attractive to me that it showed the human cost on both sides of the equation in this big kind of action gauntlet run. It was inspired by true events, but again, it wasn't what I've seen in the last 20 years of movies that feel like everybody in the Middle East is a cardboard cutout and a cliche of themselves. It humanized them in a way that we had never seen before, and that there are people that we would think are the opposite side of our goals, but they're just trying to get home to their families as well.
As a director, how did you approach that to make sure they're humanized? I mean, yes, it's obviously in the script and you have your actors, and I'm glad you touched upon how it's showing all sides and not really anybody's right or wrong. So how did you approach that as a director to make sure all of that came across?
Well, the first thing I got lucky with is, Gerard Butler and I had already done 2 pictures together. And when I read this, and Basil Iwanek, my producer that was on Greenland and, did the Sicario, he's the one that showed me the script. And I started laughing. I go, this is Jerry. He says 100%. And it's because what we love about Jerry is he's not afraid to show vulnerability and real emotion, on camera. A lot of our movie stars of today really wanted to stay 10 feet tall and bulletproof and impervious to pain and perfect, and flawless. And he wasn't, he loves to play it a little bit more messy, but he was also a staunch supporter of keeping the Rashomon point of view of the material, that we really embrace these other characters and really embrace them in a way that made them 3-dimensional, when a lot of stars of his stature would say, the camera stays here, get rid of everything else. And he was not about that. He really loved the communal sense of what the story was about. And then I knew I had my guy. Like, I knew that we were all making the same movie.
What was it like working with Gerard Butler again? And was it a different process this time around?
Yeah, I mean, this is our 3rd picture together. Angel Has Fallen was, again, taking that action hero guy with a special set of skills and kind of messing him up again the way that the 70s characters were, even the 50s, where they had flaws, they were dealing with things, to turn Mike Banning into a pill-popping, member of the Secret Service is trying to keep, his own mortality going and not hang up the gun, and maybe doing it at the cost of other people's lives, and trying to come to terms with that. Then to take him into Greenland, where he's playing the mortal man with no special skills, and he's just a normal guy that has to be all about what his heart will convey, will get him through, dealing with, again, with a broken marriage that has to come to terms with that and the atonement of that. It was amazing what Kandahar kind of put them both together, because he got to be the guy back in action with a special set of skills, but never turning him into an action hero, making him a man that was capable of violence and had special skills, but still vulnerable, dealing with his own flaws of being addicted to the game, and the point, where he doesn't even know his own daughter that's about to graduate high school, and trying to come to terms with that. So it was fun to put him in this box where we never went action hero version with him, just kept him as a mortal man that's, like any of our guys that I've met, our men and women, that go into battle, they don't look like the guys on the helicopter in Predator. They look like normal people, because they all have families they're trying to get back to. They're all trying to stay alive. They all get this thing. And we wanted that same kind of feel in this movie.
With your background in stunts, how do you feel that affects how you direct?
It makes my life easier to understand how to achieve the action, but I'm never worried about the action. I'm more worried about how I'm getting there. It becomes about how the characters are going to be set up, where I'm not shooting action for the sake of action, which I just think is mindless, and my eyes glaze over when even when somebody's spending $200 million on action that I just don't have any emotional attachment to. So for me, I'm always about how I'm going to emotionally attach the audience. Do I want them to feel adrenaline rush? Do I want them to feel stressed? Do I want them to feel excited? Do I want them to dread what they're about to go through? If they've got an emotional connection, then the action has relevance, and it becomes a much more interesting thing. People call me old school because I like to do it real, but it's just because my movies are authentic. At least I hope they're authentic. So it means the action has to be authentic. A car is not going to drop 30,000 feet from a plane and land on its wheels and keep going in my movie. That person's dead.
Well, that definitely comes with lots of challenges to make that work. So speaking of that, were there any particular challenges you faced while filming, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge, which is what we call Jaws in the sky. I love this helicopter sequence where, Gerard Butler's character is driving at night by night vision, and then he's, accosted by a helicopter. And without giving away the plot, doing a helicopter sequence at night is very, very dangerous. But you bring in the best pilot in the world, Fred North, and you bring in Jason Tubbs, the armed car driver who can get very close to the action as well, and keep everything safe. But those are very detailed and choreographed sequences. And the idea that we came up with Jaws in the sky is what made Jaws so exciting and terrifying was not when you saw the shark, it was when you didn't see the shark and you wondered where it was. And we wanted that same feeling in the night sky of not always seeing the helicopter, wondering where that shark is lurking.
Yeah, that's a very fun and exciting sequence. And then also, were there any moments where things didn't go as planned but turned out for the better? So kind of a happy accident?
Always. I don't call them happy accidents. What I call them is just allowing things to happen. I think when you're earlier in your career, I was very guilty of this. I wanted everything buttoned up. I knew my exact shot list. I knew how everything was going to go. Then those happen. Then you feel like it's an accident when it doesn't go that way, or when you're not prepared, you feel like you're being lazy. And I've gotten to the point where in my career that I've got enough confidence to have a good game plan, but to leave room for the talented people around me, to bring these rock star actors in and let them dance, let them contribute to the party in a way that I'm not pigeonholing them into a certain moment, but to allow discovery. One of the best ones, and it shows you how both sides of the camera work, is there's a really intense scene when Muhammad, Naveed's character, meets a warlord for the first time, and there's a big twist that happens, and Jerry's character, Tom, is in the middle of it. And we ended up so close to their faces. And that's just my camera operators used for story and having the confidence to go find the story. And so moments like that aren't choreographed. They're just these things that happen. It's what makes it magic. It makes it that moments that happen, not by accident. It's because you allow everybody to find a discovery of something versus this is the only way it's going to go, and shoehorning them into one equation.
Speaking of talented cast, tell me about your team. You had quite a few amazing, talented actors across the spectrum of different genre of film.
That was the really, really rewarding part. Was we didn't want a lot of the usual suspects. We wanted to go discover people. I always knew Naveed Negahban would be Mo. He was my first choice. And yes, he's not a discovery. Naveed's been a brilliant actor for many years. But his personal story of being a child refugee from Iran and knowing the region, I knew it was a very passionate story that he wanted to make it authentic and be right, and represent the region. But then finding like Bahadur Falati, who's a super talented actor that, I saw he did an audition for me that just blew me away, and just his eyes and the way that he looked was different. And Ali Fazal and, Vasilius. I mean, we just got kind of the who's who of different actors around the world that weren't like the Western cinema bad guy or the Western cinema, people that we really understand, but they were gifted in their own rights. But to show that where they were authentic to their region because they played their region versus the version that we think the Western audience wants to see of that region.
And finally, what do you hope people take away from your film?
Hopefully they are entertained and have a really big, exciting ride. But hopefully they're having a conversation afterwards going, I didn't really ever understand the war, the war on terror the way this is. I never understood the other side of the human cost of what the cycle of violence has happened in the region. Also, that we shouldn't demonize, and which we're all guilty of in this world today, of demonizing societies as a whole versus understanding there are radicals in every faction, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the people are malicious or nefarious, that they're just human beings trying to live with peace and love and harmony. And, my job is never to give my opinion in movies. My job is just to show you, take you into subject matter with warts and all, and let you discover it for yourself. And if we have a debate and maybe have a conscious stream of thought, hopefully a little bit of change will happen along the way. But my main goal is just to hopefully entertain the crap out of you.
Well, yes, indeed. I would say so. And then hopefully people will check it out soon. Well, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Kandahar comes to theaters on Friday, May 26th. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kari Lane with FANVERSATION.